Sandbags have been used in movie and photo production for thousands of years. I myself have spent decades with sandbags. So I want to distill my sand-based knowledge to you in 3 categories. 1, what is a sandbag? 2, the utilization of a sandbag. 3, how to build your own sandbag on the cheap. And the 2 classes are, broadly speaking, sandbags that sit and sandbags that hug. I have different sizes, and that's gonna give me some different weights. This is a light one. This one has a lot more strappage going on. Wow! I can put a maximum of 30 pounds in this one. Some very normal shaped sandbags. This is that bullion. This has ball bearings in it, and it's not really modifiable. It is what it is. And this is a leg or arm weight. Wow, look at that. That was pretty neat. Talk about some ways that I might use some sandbags, and you're welcome to use them in a similar manner. We got some different sort of stands that you might have. Because this light stand is very lightweight, we need to weigh it down. So, that's not looking too great, not gonna do that. I could try to put it here. You can see a lot of the weight really isn't going to the light stand. So we're gonna put it, it's like Blue's Clues. I do a bunch of obviously wrong things, and then, we're amazed by like a bit of common sense. So you can see here, the weight is pushing down on these center braces. It's not gonna fly off easily, even though it's at this kind of awkward looking angle. You might be tempted to put it like this. This isn't actually bad because most of the weight is still hanging off the ground. It's not really touching the ground too much, which is something we want to avoid. And I will show you why. This would be an example of what we don't want to have happen with these sitting sandbags. So I'm putting it on this step ladder, and it seems the saddlebag sits nicely over this, but I put this down.
No.
So that sandbag's basically doing nothing. So this is a pretty extreme example of why we don't want our sandbags really touching the ground. This again would be, another sort of case of it's holding it down a little bit, but it'll come off. You want the weight pushing down on the item you're trying to weigh down, not on the floor. Hey, look at that. But yeah, C-stands are pretty easy to weigh down because you can typically just slap a saddlebag right over one of the legs. Or 2. I can easily slap that around. Ta-da. And our much cheaper option here. A little slower, and we lost a lot of cool points with this technique. But it is a lot cheaper, and you can put whatever you need in here. Got these. I don't poop anymore, or have indigestion, or keto. I mean, these are great. These are wonderful. I don't know. I just recommend these in the sense that they're a lot cheaper. Around your home studio or whatever, you could use that. I could probably glue this down a bit with fabric glue or whatnot. You're not gonna put a whole lot of weight in these either. So there you go. That didn't look very professional at all. Here. So this, you can see, is the weight's on the floor. That's not doing us any good. So if I was going to use this sandbag, I'd have to be a little more creative. Slap it around here and then bungee it or whatnot. So, oh man, if only I had something that could just sit around the center post. So another common application for a sandbag is as a counterweight. We have a Avenger stand with a built-in boom. I'm gonna use this to simulate a light. So this is not a sandbag, it's a light. We need to offset the weight on here. So I have zip tied here a little carabiner just for this specific scenario. Pop that in here.
That better be a good carabiner.
It's a decent carabiner. Now, something I may want to do is also weigh down the stand itself. And ta-da, I have used a sandbag successfully in a video or film related scenario. So there's an argument for why you might want to have different sizes and types of sandbags in your kit. I'm not going to make that argument because I'm lazy, but somebody could make that argument. So this is what I do to fill my sandbags. You may do something a little different, but this is what I do. Now, sand isn't the only thing. There are certain sandbags that use water. Ball bearings are a great alternative. Those are going to last for a long time. They're very durable. They have more mass for the same amount of volume than sand, but sand is very cheap, which is why a lot of people use it. Because I'm using sand in order to save money, I am not paying for expensive dry craft sand. I am paying for cheap play sand. So I got play sand from my local hardware store, but the sand was still moist, so I needed to dry it out. So I poured a layer into a bin and let that layer dry. The dry sand is very fine. You can see an example of dry sand and moist sand here. You want the sand to be completely dry. Once the sand had dried, I put in another layer, and I did that over a couple weeks. The humidity was low, it didn't take that long. But once the sand is finally dry, I wanted to go ahead and filter out any rocks. That'll cut your bag. So I found a strainer that was about the right size, and I strained the sand. That got rid of larger rocks, straw, anything that just shouldn't be going into a sandbag. Can you believe this is marketed to kids? We bought the sand, we dried the sand, we filtered the sand, we went on Alibaba and we got our cheap sandbags. Now, you may think you're fine with your sandbag, but you need a bag to put in your sandbag. And I like to bag my sand and put those baguettes into a bag that is nested within the sandbag. We're gonna find a liner to go inside this sandbag. If you put sand directly into this, the sand will come out. It'll go into the teeth of this sort of thing.
And it gets everywhere.
The sand will start to puff out. You'll start getting sand dust wherever you go. You'll be like a pig pen and just have this cloud, this miasma following you wherever you go. These are somewhat pre-selected. This bag here is a great bag. These IKEA bags are pretty durable. You don't want like the cheapest bag you can find, because if it rips, you know, like somewhat defeats the purpose. Now this bag I think is a little a little short. If I needed to press this into service, I probably could, but I don't need to because I found some other bags here. And these bags are, even though they're just the store brand, they seem relatively heavy duty. But they're here, and look at this. I think they will fit in there nicely. Now you can use liners that aren't exactly the right size. Say this, you're using this liner, you can fold it in, but I think it's pretty essential that you're going to use a pretty heavy duty plastic bag to keep the sand in. I do not feel comfortable putting sand directly into these liners. So what I like to do is I like to use sandwich bags, and then I'm going to stack sandwich bags within the liner and the liner within each saddle bag of the sandbag. One Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4, 5. 5 Mississippis is what you or I like to put in my little baguette. So I'm gonna fill up a few more. But hey, you know, maybe your time's valuable. I mean, at that point, you probably, though, have a boy who would just fill the bag for you. So, you know, you'd say you buy the cheaper bags and you have more money for more boys. Now you're thinking like an entrepreneur. Really do not want air in here if we can help it. This is what can happen to your bags within your liner bag over time. But the big thing is we didn't leave any air pockets inside here. We don't have any ruptures in the little sand baguettes, even though this has been thrown around a bit and, you know, shaped by the forces of pressure. It's still quite usable. So at this point, I've put in 6 of these little baguettes into our liner. You don't want it to get real fat because you don't want it to hang like this. You want it to be able to touch and have a bit of friction there if need be. But you can definitely fill it a little more than this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And just like with the small baggies, I'm removing as much air out of this liner bag as I can. Go ahead and tuck that in and just kind of see how that feels. I filled this more than this blue one, but I still think this is pretty good. So this one will be a little heavier, but I think that's fine. I think this can be a little more mass in this one. And I like to have a little diversity amongst my bags. Make some bags a little heavier, a little lighter. Old one, and this is our new one. So I'm not marking my sandbags with the weight, but because they're all filled with sand, you can judge them based on how they look. Now, normally, I would not suggest judging something by its size, but in the case of sand, in the case of the sand people, I hate them.
Insert Lisa and Al Gaib meme here.
Oh yeah, I guess for Zoomers, they're more, sand is a Dune meme. For millennials, it's a Star Wars. I hate sand. The liner being just a little too small. And it doesn't really just fill this in. I don't really like it. So if I have to err onto one side, I'm gonna err onto the bag being the liner being a little too big. So I'm gonna go back to this. I'm willing to take the extra time to redo this because I'm gonna have this sandbag for a long time. So I would like it to conform and squish and not have these weird air pockets in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo this. And don't feel you need to fill every cubic inch with sand. So having a little space here is fine. And because the liner is big enough, it'll start to kind of flow in and around and create this nice little shape. Just because we're trying to do this cheaply doesn't mean we don't care how we look. So there we go. Well, thank you for your time. Together we made this typical, what I'm calling a sitting sandbag, and what I am calling a hugging sandbag. Comment below, what kind of American are you? Are you a Star Wars prequel American? Are you a Dune 2? Timothy Chalamet! We got some potentially related videos over here. We talk about light stands. We talk about lights that go on stands. Do I have any jokes? Do you have any jokes lined up I can end with? These sandbags cost me the shirt off my back.